Wave 1 of Vigilus Ablaze and the new Chaos Space Marines has finally landed on the Warhammer community website. We're seeing a lot of really cool stuff coming out as far as new models coming, new rules coming, new stratagems, everything. So in this video today, I'm going to go through some of those new goodies that are coming our way, some of the new stat lines, new stratagems, warlord traits, relics, those kind of goods. And then throughout the week, I'll be covering the heretic indexes that they're doing for each one of the Traitor Legions that they're kind of revamping with Vigilus Ablaze. In addition to that, we'll kind of talk about what the second wave might be like, because this still is only wave 1 of the Chaos Space Marines kind of overall revamp. And we'll start, of course, with Abaddon the Despoiler. What a fitting beginning here. Now, we can see with the new awesome Abaddon model, this guy is just going to be a beefcake. He's just a little bit smaller than Guilliman. So, I mean, to be a little bit smaller than a Primarch and not be a Primarch is pretty awesome. He's so infused with Chaos Magic and the Ruinous Powers that it's going to be pretty awesome to see him on the tabletop. But now we have a taste of what his stat line is going to be. So let's take a look at the old Abaddon. Old Abaddon is Strength 4, Toughness 5, 7 wounds, 6 attacks, 10 leadership, and a 2-up save with his 4-up Dark Destiny and Vuln save that also halves any damage suffered to Abaddon. So to put that in a frame of reference, if your weapon does a 4 damage profile, it would round that down to 2. So pretty beefy. I mean, it's not a 3-up in Vuln save, but I mean, that halving of damage is massive. And that is at 240 points. That's the old Abaddon. So the new Abaddon we're getting is Strength and Toughness 5, so it gets 1 more strength, 8 wounds, 1 more wound, and 6 attacks, 10 leadership, and a 2-up save. Now he probably has the same Dark Destiny 4-up in Vuln of the halving of damage. He'll get Death to the False Emperor more than likely. Maybe a revamp to Lord of the Black Legion, Mark of Chaos Ascendant, but probably not. Lord of the Black Legion from the old Abaddon was a re-roll of any hit rolls within 6 inches for all Black Legion models, and then Mark of Chaos Ascendant allowed for an auto pass of morale tests of all Heretic Astartes models within 12 inches of Heretic Astartes. So if you look at that stat line and you compare him to Guilliman, which has got 6 strength, 6 toughness, 9 wounds, 6 attacks, 10 leadership, 2-up and 3-up in Vuln save at 400 points, I think that the new Abaddon is probably going to lie somewhere around there. Purely on conjecture standpoint, I would say the new Abaddon is probably going to be around 300 points. The only Lord of War that the Black Legion have access to is the Khorne Lord of Skulls. I don't think that this is going to be enough points to push Abaddon into a Lord of War. I mean, if we're looking at him from a typical just lore standpoint, it would make sense for him to be a Lord of War, but I think with the way the community website is kind of aiming at describing his rules and everything and his stat line, they make it sound like he's just going to be a little bit higher of a point cost with a lot of his same old great abilities. We're not sure on Drachnian and Talon of Horus how those two are going to play out. Probably going to be the same exact profile. They're pretty beefy as is. But that kind of sums up our lovely Abaddon here. We also, though, get some new Chaos Space Marines multi-part models. Now, we have the easy-to-build ones in the Shadowspear box, but this is going to be the same old kind of Chaos Space Marines that we've seen in the past as far as being a really solid kit. The old Chaos Space Marine kit, while dated of course, is still very solid. You can build a nice full 10-man squad with a heavy weapon and a special weapon in, or you can build a full close combat squad. Same thing is going to be evident here. You know, you've got the close combat weapon variants in here. You've got you've got a heavy weapon and a special weapon built into this profile. You have this really awesome, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger commando looking Chaos Space Marine, like, get into the chopper. I'm really, really stoked to see these guys. I really want to see Chaos Space Marines get a buff though. I think with them being Black Legion and all the benefits of Black Legion, this could, you know, pan out well, but I think the biggest thing here is that Chaos Space Marines are so high of a cost for really not a great unit overall. You're better off using more chaffy troop choices to just get the troop tax taken care of. They can't compete with Primaris, and for their point costs, they just really aren't awesome. Now, the new FAQ is coming out in April, and that might see these guys get reworked. Hell, Vigilus Ablaze might rework these guys, and Black Legion might actually have more benefits to using Chaos Space Marines. That's the backbone of their army outside of cultists. Now, cultists did get a nerf in a leaked image of a new rule called Mere Mortals, meaning that cultists will not be able to benefit from the aura of a Chaos Lord anymore. Now, I can't find that actual rule anywhere. If you've seen it anywhere on the Reddit or a forum, please go ahead and link it below and I'll pin it. I couldn't find it to reference it in this video. Turin was telling me about it, so again, if you find it, let me know so I can reference it. But that is our new Chaos Space Marines. So in addition, we're also going to be getting the new Noctilith crown here. Now, we don't really know what all the rules are for this just yet, but we do know that it will be adding invulnerable saves and an aura around it. It is a fortification, and it will also be probably helping out with the Psyker rolls that you'll be making, maybe adding 1 to your warp charges when you're trying to manifest any Psyker abilities, which is, in all honesty, pretty awesome. The biggest thing with armor saves nowadays is that invulnerable saves are the biggest thing, right? You have a lot of mortal wounds coming your way in the way of smites, a lot of ways to just dish that out. So any way you can really negate a lot of damage coming your way from an invulnerable save is just so huge. So this thing will hopefully be very competitive for Chaos Space Marines, as Chaos Space Marines themselves are not very competitive in ITC formats. The top person who won with a Thousand Suns soup list only actually had about, I think it was 600 points of Thousand Suns. So that's to give you a frame of reference that you need to really soup up or be soupy with Warhammer's Chaos Space Marines to really get them in a competitive stance, and hopefully this will kind of help out. Now, moving on, we also see that with Vigilus Ablaze, we'll be getting Black Legion's more or less codex jammed into it. The codex for the Black Legion did exist in the 7th edition, but it looks like Warhammer 8th edition will not have a separate codex for them, just included with their Warlord traits, their relics, their Shadow Gems, all that kind of awesome action with their 6 tactical objectives in Vigilus Ablaze. In addition, we'll also get some reworks for Renegade forces, so if you're using the Crimson Slaughter, this is where you're going to get those rules, those revamps to them as well, the Brazen Beasts, the Purge, the Flawed Host, stuff like that. In addition here, we're also going to see rules for the Skull Altar, Skull Taker, and Bloodmaster, which were just added to Age of Sigmar in their Bloodhounds of Khorne. Now, I hope that this also leads to new Khorne Berserker models. Khorne Berserker models are so dated, but they're so cool. Like, I love the lore behind Khorne Berserkers. World Eaters were the second 40k army I ever played behind Space Wolves, and they have a special place in my heart. So hopefully this is kind of like a teaser of things to come, since they're already kind of embroiled in that Khorne mindset, in those Khorne sculpts. I mean, a lot of people already kind of just use not Skull Takers, but the Age of Sigmar really badass looking guys who basically look like Khorne Berserkers, and just slap them on Khorne Berserker Marine lower halves. So there's still some kit bashing that can be done, but I'd love to see an updated sculpt for those guys that are just more proportionate to their bodies. Moving on, though, we're also going to be getting basically version 2.0 of the Codex Heretic Astartes. Now, here's my problem with this. We're going to be getting this pre-orderable next week or so, and that doesn't seem very smart, because we're also going to be getting an FAQ in April with Adepticon. So is that going to have there's not going to be any FAQ stuff for Chaos Space Marines in that? Then I'm cool with that. If that's the case, that's awesome. Otherwise, you're making me buy this book if I'm a Space Marines player to get everything updated in my one book, and I think that that's huge. Like, it sucks having a codex that is then immediately outdated twice a year, if not more, because you've got the codex that comes out, then the errata, then the FAQ, then another FAQ a year. So it can be pretty hard to keep up with the rules if you're not using something like a Battle Scribe or their digital formats that are updated very frequently. If you have just simply the print format, then you run out of it runs out of date pretty quickly here. But this gives us a really good diagram of, what you can do here. So if you're starting here, you own the previous Codex of Space Marines, just get Vigilus Ablaze and download the new Shadowspear Chaos data sheets. But if you don't, get the new Codex. That way you can have the previous FAQs updated in it, and then you could also get Shadowspear if you want. But it sounds like this is going to come out after Vigilus Ablaze, which would probably mean that the rules from Vigilus Ablaze will be in here for your Black Legion detachments, stuff like that. In addition, I'm hoping that also means it comes out in conjunction or alongside or right behind the FAQ that will also include those rules, because it's not like they don't have those rules already written somewhere, you know what I mean? So we'll see how that kind of pans out. Now, with all these goodies, we also have some of the Black Legion stratagems that were not leaked, but also posted on Warhammer Community. We'll be going through some of the other Traitor Legions in one massive video when they release all of their information, but just to go into some of the Black Legion stuff, we get Tip of the Spear, a new stratagem for them. It is a great honor to be the first to slay the foe, and this allows you to reroll hit rolls for a Black Legion unit that is closest to the enemy unit. And if you have multiple that are close, you select whichever one. That seems to be the name of the game for the Black Legion, is re-rolling hit rolls. Now, in my opinion, and this is purely anecdotal, hit rolls are not the huge barrier when it comes to doing damage in Warhammer 40,000. The biggest barrier is dealing with toughness. When you're dealing with a lot of characters such as like Imperial Knights, which are very, very prominent in the meta, they have a very high toughness value. Or you deal with Death Guard, very high toughness value. Or if you're dealing with a large amount of Primaris, they have a 4 minimum toughness, with 5 and 6 being a possible captain or Gravis armor counterpart. So I don't think that hitting is the problem. I think wounding is the problem. And I think that there's so many rerolls of hitting for Black Legion that it doesn't really come off as overly competitive to me. But at the same time, you do have stuff like Veterans of the Long War and Death of the False Emperor already working in your favor as a Chaos player. So this stuff just kind of already adds to that. So rerolling your hit rolls, if you get a 6 with the Death of the False Emperor, you're going to get an extra attack out of it. So there are benefits very much so to having those reroll to hits. And I think that's probably why they're so thematically built into these stratagems, is that it allows you to get extra attacks on board. Now moving also, you get another relic, Angel's Bane here, which is a combi bolter, rapid fire 2 with the new rapid fire bolter rules. That's pretty awesome, right? So you're going to fire 4 shots if you're within 12 inches, or if you haven't moved in that turn, you get 4 full shots to full rapid fire at 24 inches. Pretty great, 5 strength, minus 2 AP, which is pretty potent. Now the nice thing here is a damage characteristic of 3 if the target has the Imperium keyword. In the competitive meta right now, that's pretty huge. You deal with a lot of Imperial Knights, you deal with a lot of Imperium in general across Astra Militarum, then the Mechanicus, and also the Primaris and Space Marines. So that is a real great way to do a lot of damage for what I would hope is a pretty affordable relic, if not just a simple character choice or option for some things, but it looks like it's just simply a relic. This ornate twin bolt gun earned its name at the Siege of Terra, and its demon-infused machine spirit delights in slaughtering those faithful to the Emperor. Super thematic, super good. Now, with Abaddon, we also get his elite Terminators. Now we saw, I think it was this guy's Trophy Spike and then this guy's autocannon on the Demon Engine rumor mills that came out. So we're going to see these new Bringers of Despair, awesome sculpts. I'm hoping that we're also going to get some like Primaris Terminator equivalents down the road. Like, I mean, we've already had line soldier, line combat style soldier Primaris. We've had clandestine Primaris. Now it's time for some heavy like hitting ones with like some sort of Terminator sculpt-ish Gravis armor Primaris. But getting back onto these guys, awesome sculpts, super stoked for these dudes. They have that really cool kind of Black Legion feel. They got those awesome trophy spikes, and it's just a really good update to the Terminators, which were already not a bad sculpt, but these guys are even cooler. But you get the new Specialist Detachment, and that's something I'm super excited for. Vigilus Ablaze will hopefully add a lot of Specialist Detachment stratagems to the game, and Specialist Detachments really kind of brought a lot of flavor into 7th edition, and I see them as bringing a lot of flavor even more so into 8th edition. Now, Bringers of Despair, it does have your special detachment here, and it allows for Black Legion Terminator units in the detachment to gain the Bringer of Despair keyword. Bringer of Despair keyword we're going to get back to. Trust me, it's going to be pretty cool when we get around to it. But with that, we also get Brutal Subjugation, which is a new Black Legion stratagem, and this is targeting Bringers of Despair. And in the fight phase, each enemy model slain by this unit in this phase counts as 2 models in the subsequent morale phase. Again, really huge for Horde armies, where they're going to suffer a lot of attrition from losing 3 models, which then turns into 6 equivalent with Brutal Subjugation. This can be a really great way to kind of crack a front line, push through a unit that is meant as a large screen to get you through it much faster. This way you don't have to slog through it by killing every single unit in there or what have you. This allows to really kind of, like it says, Brutal Subjugation to get you through that front line. Moving though from that, we also get Chosen of the War Master. Now, the Warhammer community website talks about this in a kind of way where they make it sound like there's some additional lords that are specific to the War Master, to the Black Legion. The Lord Ravager, Lord Corruptor, Lord Deceiver, and Lord Purgator. Now, or Purgator, sorry, Purgator. Now, the Chosen of the War Master is a great way to get a lot of the benefits of Abaddon without having Abaddon on the board. So when the War Master himself is not present, this warrior has the strength to lead the forces of the Legion in his stead. Reroll hits of 1 for the attacks made by friendly Bringers of Despair within 6 inches. But if you put this on a Lord of Chaos, that is all hit rolls within 6 inches for Bringers of Despair. So this is kind of geared towards making a very tanky, very destructive Death Star of Bringers of Despair Terminators, kind of pushing down that front line with the Warlord, or I'm sorry, with that Lord of Chaos in tow. The way that the Warhammer Community website makes this out to be is that it can be either for a Lord of Chaos or for a Sorcerer. So that's why it says if your Warlord has the Lord of Chaos ability. So that's something to take in mind when you're looking at the Chosen of the War Master. This is, of course, a Warlord trait, not a stratagem. So this is one of the new Warlord traits that they'll be adding with Vigilus Ablaze. Now, in addition, we have another stratagem that plays hand in hand with that. It's called Field Commander. This warrior's specialist expertise is second to none, and in battle they lead those under their command with sophisticated tactics. You can choose one character from your specialist attachment, which is, as we know, the Bringers of Despair, and then that Warlord will then, you can give the character the Warlord trait of the specialist attachment they are part of, which was one we just took a look at, Chosen of the War Master. So in this way, if you take a look at it, and it only costs 1 command point to do this, and you can do this as many times as you have that specialist attachment, or for each specialist attachment, which is nice, because this is obviously talking about, it says specialist attachment in a generic, broad, open sense, not just the simple Bringers of Despair. Meaning that we're going to be seeing more specialist attachments with this codex, or with this book, so that will hopefully lead to a lot more, I guess, soupier lists that have a lot more fun and character attached to them. So the Field Commander, if you kind of think of it, Warhammer Community website talked about this almost verbatim, was you have Abaddon, you have your Bringers of Despair, and you have a Warlord in the Bringers of Despair detachment with Field Commander that then allows those Warlords to re-roll hits. Like, the way you can really kind of layer these things is pretty awesome, and it really kind of plays very well to the Shadowspear box that you got, right? All the chaos in the Shadowspear box are going to have so much great synergy outside of that box that I think it's really ramping up for what we're going to see in Vigilus Ablaze. With that, though, that is the end of our Wave 1 kind of summarization of the stuff that is coming up to pre-order and with Vigilus Ablaze. Now, we do have Wave 2 around the corner. What does that mean? Well, we haven't heard more of the Lord Discordant, that really awesome, he almost looks like a chaplain or a warsmith on top of the badass little scorpion. So that thing is coming in Wave 2. Hopefully some Khorne Berserkers. The rest of the Demon Engine, which hasn't been fleshed out, we've seen some pieces here and there. So I'm really excited to see what these next couple of weeks bring before Vigilus Ablaze comes out. Right, when Vigilus Ablaze comes out, that's kind of like you've tipped the cards. Now you can see everything. So it's only a matter of time before we get the rest of the goodies to see what it's going to be like. I'm really hoping for some cool Loyalist stuff. I personally think that the Primaris Vanguard stuff is a little underwhelming. A lot of it is not very competitive. It needs its points reduced, as almost all Primaris typically did out the gate. The Infiltrators, while really cool at 22 points a model, they're they're very much a hamstring. And if you take a look at some of their other models, though, Elites, they're pretty great. The Eliminators are 72 points for a block, which is awesome. The Suppressors are actually pretty cost-effective too, I think around 70, 76 points. So you get a lot of really good use case out of them, but I mean, a Phobos, or a Lieutenant in Phobos armor, just, it's like 12, 14 extra points, and I don't really need those points wasted on Phobos armor. Same thing with the Captain. The Captain does have a little bit more utility built into his abilities, but I don't see the same thing with the Lieutenant. So I think you have to very specifically build into those lists, versus all of what's coming out with Chaos is meant to benefit Chaos as a whole. And I think that's because Chaos has always kind of been under the power curve, even though they have so many tools at their disposal. They've just been kind of broken tools bought from Harbor Freight Tools. But guys, thanks so much for watching here today. We'll have plenty more coverage of what's coming out at Warhammer Community as it kind of fleshes itself out. If there's anything in specific you want to hear about, please, by all means, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. But always, guys, have a good one and take care.